Hi, this is Thierry Samlal from PMML. Today we're going to look at the January 2021 multifamily market. An exceptional month following an exceptional year. 2020 was an incredible year for multifamily housing. It was price value per door was accelerated by low interest rates, slight rents on the rise, and the presence of COVID. All of those three factors pushed the pricing per door higher and also compressed the cap rates on the market. So a very interesting year. 2020, we finished it with an incredible month of December, a record amount of transactions that took place in that month for a December period, and also more than 600 mortgages that were closed for multifamily housing in the month of December only. We know that the standard number of mortgages usually closes around 400 per month, so we have a 200 extra mortgages closed for December, which means that we have owners which have equity that taken money out of their equity, and they have that money available either to reinvest into the market or reinvest into their buildings. Let's talk about January 2021. So we had close to 300 transactions, 298 transactions to be exact, in that period, which is an increase of 45% compared to January 2020, right before COVID. So a number of transactions, which is relatively high for a month of January in the multiplex housing. And these are transactions which closed probably in September, October 2020, during the low end of COVID, and that are now transacting after 2, 3, 4 months of negotiations, financing process, and closing. So those transactions were done in 2020. Now, I chose 5 transactions for you for for January. We have a major transaction, the transaction of Ramco, which is Ramco is a owner-operator based in New Jersey that owns assets in North America, in the United States, and also in Canada, notably in British Columbia, Ontario, and Quebec. And they've sold their Quebec-based assets, which are located in the region of Montreal. We're talking about a transaction of $300 million that took place on 2 months, the months of December and the month of January. But most of that transaction notarized in January. So we have about $220 million worth of transaction in January. Ramco is going to have, the Ramco transaction is going to have a major impact on certain areas. Well, first of all, the greater region of Montreal is going to have an impact because we're talking about many doors and historically it's the largest transaction ever, over 2,000 units that transacted in one global transaction. But Ramco had assets mostly in Lachine, Longueuil, Châteauguay, and they had a major asset in DDO. So if we're looking at the market, and we're looking at the quantity of assets sold, but we're also looking at the category in which the assets are located. So we have 3 assets which were in the category of 100 door and above, 1 asset that was in the category of 200 door and above. Now we know that in the global Quebec-based market for multifamily, only 3% of the transactions which are closed per year are in the category of 50 doors and above. So that is not a lot of inventory available. So now we have 3 assets that are sold. 1 in DDO, we're talking about over 200 units. So there's going to be a large impact on comparables sold for all of the western part of Montreal, Montreal West, going all the way down to Vaudreuil, passing through Lachine, Dorval, Pointe-Claire, DDO. All of this area is going to be influenced by the sale of that asset. We're going to be using that now as a comparable the evaluators are going to be using that as a comparable, but also me as a broker I'm going to be looking at comparable for the sale of my future assets above 100 doors. Ramco had a large influence also in Lachine. Lachine, we have 6 buildings that were sold in the category of 20 to 30 units. We know that Lachine is not a big territory. It's a very restricted area, and we have a lot of buildings that were built in the 20 to 50 door range in that area. So 6 assets sold in the last 2 months is going to have a large impact on that market and the way we look at it also. There's a large influence also in Châteauguay. Châteauguay, we had a major asset that was sold over 100 doors. We know that in the Châteauguay region, when you're working with comparables in that region, there's not much to look at. There's not many comparables sold because it's mostly housing in that area. So that's going to come and impact all of the southwest part of the South Shore. It's going to have impacts on Delson, Candiac, Saint-Constant, La Prairie, Brossard, Valleyfield. That major area is going to be impacted by the Châteauguay asset that was sold over 100 doors. There was also 2 smaller assets sold in Châteauguay. It's going to have a large influence. Apart from Lachine, DDO, Châteauguay, the Ramco transaction is going to have a major impact in Longueuil. In Longueuil, most of the assets that were built are in the 6, 8, 16-plex category. There's seldom assets in the 25 to 60 per door category. But hence, we do have many assets that were sold in that area. If I'm looking at my statistics here, in the Longueuil area, we have a major asset close to 200 doors that was sold, but we also have 15 smaller buildings, mostly in the asset category of 30 to 60 doors. And we know that in Longueuil, most of the assets that were built don't really go over 24 doors. So once again, that asset, which is the assets that were sold are in the mid category, they're going to come and influence the sales price of the smaller buildings, but also of the larger assets that are sold on the South Shore of Montreal. Major transaction, I'm very excited about it, a large impact on the market. It also shows, and the Ramco asset was sold to a private base operator. So it shows that there's a lot of requests for the Montreal market, and that we have something interesting happening on the market right now with large assets sold like this. I chose 5 different transactions for you just to explain the market. My second choice is a transaction in Ville-Saint-Laurent, 88 door, a relatively newer asset in the category age of 1980 to 1990. We know that in that category age, we don't have much that was available on the market. In those days, they were building more condominiums. Today, they're building more multifamily housing. 56% of what's built today is in the multifamily and row housing category. So that's a major impact. I want to talk to you about this transaction because right now I'm selling a lot of newer multifamily buildings, and there's a large tendency of the market to be attracted towards the newer assets, which have less maintenance on the short term to do and less renovations, and the capacity to upswing the rents. We know that tenants are looking for renovated properties, well located, and newer properties. Most of the tenants, 1/3 of the population right now of Quebec is over 55 years of age. So a lot of those tenants are looking for newer assets. They're selling their homes and they want to be in something comfortable, something clean, something that they're proud about, and that's newer assets. So this asset is in the 1980 category age. It's a 88 unit located close to a train station, located in Ville-Saint-Laurent, located close to accesses to Highway 15. We could easily go to Laval, to the north part of Montreal, and also to the 40 and go to Montreal. So it's an asset that has a great location, concrete structure. It's also an asset that has 6 floors. So it's located directly in the Todd area, close to the transportation. And this asset went for 3.5 cap. So, which is interesting because usually the market's going to be in the 3.8 to 4 cap range in that type of category. This one went for a more compressed cap rate, but it has a location which is exceptional. So in this case, the buyer was looking for an asset that was complete, nice structure, young building, easy to upgrade aesthetically, and with a capacity to naturally increase the rents. If I continue my top 5, a major asset is in the 60-door range that was sold, very well located on DeCarry, not the DeCarry Boulevard as we know, not the highway portion of DeCarry, but the street portion of DeCarry, so closer to the McGill Glen Hospital, major hospital, and close to also to Westmount and NDG. This asset is a 64-door, very interesting because once again, it's located close to 2 metro stations, close to the hospital. The buyer made a choice on the asset, and what he was looking for is for a long-term purchase and a capacity to raise the rents. A major transaction, 62 doors, 4 floors, Rosemont. Rosemont is a largely requested area right now for the tenants and for the purchasers. And what's interesting here is most of all of the units, almost the total amount of the units are studios. And this transaction went for close to $100,000 per door. Now, if we were talking about this transaction 3 years ago, would not be possible. So this is just an example of what's going on in the Montreal market. So the buyer that's buying this asset, close to $100,000 per door, knows that he could bring it to the next level and optimize it. So once again, this asset, once it's corrected to the market, once it's renovated and optimized, well, the value is no longer going to be $100,000 per door. It's going to be much higher than that. So we have a large influence. We have a price per door increasing in Montreal right now. And we also have a lot of purchasers on the market. Either we have Montreal-based owners that have large asset portfolios that are consolidating their position. They're looking at what they're going to buy, what they're going to sell in their portfolio that they don't want anymore. They also want to replace some of their existing buildings by newer buildings. So we're optimizing portfolios right now. I'm working on different deals. I feel that the market is going in that direction where the current owners, because of the low interest rates, a lot of them are just getting rid of stuff they don't want anymore. They're optimizing what they already have. They're maximizing and taking out as much money as they can of their equity, financing it at very low interest rates and going back on the market and buying a lot of newer buildings, which are being built right now. And that is creating a request for newer buildings that's higher than market standard. And that's also making an influence on the market. So land is selling for higher, construction costs are on the rise. So the newer buildings are selling for higher also. So the gap between the newer buildings and the existing buildings is being created, and that's pulling up the values of the existing buildings also, which is interesting. So if you're looking at the market, we're looking at low interest rates, rents which are still slightly on the rise even with COVID. Certain areas we have a vacancy, of course, but if you're looking at the general market, we still have a pull-up in rent value possible. And we have COVID that is there, which is accelerating the market. On top of that, you have newer buyers on the market coming from the rest of Canada, and also you have people that are already in the market which are refinancing and buying. So this has a large influence on the values of buildings. And of course, the newer buildings which are selling higher is pulling the price of the existing buildings up. So very interesting right now in the market. Finally, I want to talk to you about a last transaction that took place. 3 stories in Huntsic, very well located on the St. Lawrence Boulevard, close to a metro station, but it's a good walking distance. The asset is well located. It's located more in the northern part of Montreal, closer to Laval. 45 units that was sold. And those are my top 5 transactions. So that's very representative of what's going on in the market right now. We have the Ramco portfolio that's sold, that has a large influence on the market. I have a feeling that with the velocity of the market right now, I'm very busy. I'm reevaluating a lot of buildings. Our analyst team at PMML, we're very busy. The brokers here also. So I do feel that there's going to be a lot of change in hands of buildings in the next year. For the optimizers which are out there, people that are starting on the market, that have small portfolios, that want to increase their footprint on the market, now's the time. For owners that want to sell certain assets and just reconsolidate and relook at their portfolio and just optimize it and have a horizon of 10 years on the market. 10-year planning on where you want to go in the market, now is a great time to do it. I'm open for all your questions. You contact me, go and see our website, pmml.ca. Follow our market reports or send me a little email. I'll send you over what you need as a market report. We have quarterly reports here. And it's going to be a great 2021. I'll see you in February for my next market watch. Have a great day.